Good evening and welcome to the Chicago Communicator News Media Podcast. My name is Wanda Carter. I'm your host, and tonight we're being joined by, Miss Madeline Sanders, Miss Levette Haynes, and Dr. Sunni. Welcome to the show, ladies. Thank you for joining me. So, Dr. Sunni, we were talking about this pandemic, but in terms of how it's affecting us with the electromagnetic sphere, because that's what our body chemistry is electromagnetic, right?
Say it again. Our body's what?
Body chemistry, we have this electromagnetic sphere around us, just like the environment, just like the earth, just like the solar system.
Right. The problem is that most people's frequencies are low because of over the years, whatever we did or did not do for the physical body as well as emotional energy. And over the years, having learned about trauma and stress and all of that, and how it depletes the system, and it's a lot of people that are not fortified enough so that the electromagnetic frequencies are strong enough to ward off others that are bombarding and coming into our bodies. So it's a matter of self-care, understanding self, and then doing what's necessary.
What say you, Levette? Because I know you into health and into spirituality, and I just think, there's a whole lot more to this virus and the way that our systems are being impacted. It's one thing I know for sure. It's some kind of cleansing of the population because it's been in the United States, or at least reportedly been in the United States for 6 weeks, and more than 65,000 people are dead as a result of it. So, what say you? Is this a cleansing or not?
Everything is a cleansing. And this is just a major one, and it just happens to be what you can see. I think, we've always been going through a matter of detox, individually and then collectively as a community.
My grandmother survived because she was 13 years old when the last plague hit. And I believe that they were living in Mississippi and they were in a hot environment and they ate from the earth and were rejuvenated through the foods that they ate. Even the meat that they ate at that time it wasn't eaten every day. They preserved the meat first and then ate it sparingly. So I believe that this has become a virus that has mutated. And that's why so many people are getting it, because it's like different strains of a virus. And so it's coming at us in all directions, even though it's unseen. So you don't know if you're protecting yourself by wearing a mask, wearing gloves. Some people are defying all of it and saying they don't believe none of it. And so it's a puzzle, but I think understanding that it has become what they call zoonotic, and that's transmitted from animal to human. And so I do believe that somehow the virus mutated to humans, and just as smallpox was introduced to the Indians and killed most of them, it was something that was transmitted through Europeans. And so I believe that Europeans are the carriers. And how it affects black people is that it doesn't sit well in our body.
What?
And so
Go ahead.
When we talk about now, statistics are showing that black men in particular are the ones who succumbing to this virus. And so I thought about why is that so? So they showed this white man being treated, and instead of giving him the ventilator, they gave him oxygen. So some kind of way, black people are being given the ventilator, and this is just a speculation, because you have to ask the question, well, why are black people dying from it? So,
yeah, I mean, Madeline, what is your perspective on why in 6 weeks, 65,000 people, including a few friends of mine, one specifically I'd like to make mention of was Harold Davis of Truth Radio. He had just got that business up and going. It was skyrocketing. People were calling into the show, and it was a global piece because it was on the internet, and everybody had fallen in love with Truth Radio. And then Harold contracted the virus. He passed away on Easter Sunday. I just want to give tribute to him. What say you, Madeline? What is your perspective on how we got where we at today?
Okay. A couple of things, and I appreciate your inviting me to come on the line to talk about this one.
Okay.
I've got 2 or 3 lanes of information I'd like to provide, and I have been since I first really found out about the virus, and
your voice is breaking up, so check where you're at in your apartment, because it's kind of breaking up.
Okay. I just switched hands. Is this better?
Yes.
Is this okay? And thanks for telling me that, because sometimes the signal in this building is very poor. I have watched and listened to some medical doctors. There was one doctor out of Stanford University who I watched. She was giving her perspective on how this virus came to be, and what she said was, I can't think of her name right now. I'd have to go back to the link. But anyway, what she said was, this virus came about as a result of human behavior, and thus human behavior and an error that was made in a lab. To that, from that perspective, an error that occurred in a laboratory. This virus came about from what she said, the laboratory setting, wherein animal, like the other young lady was saying, it was an animal virus that was combined with a human virus. And that's how we got this particular virus that we're dealing with right now. As we know, this virus is in a family of viruses. It is in the family of SARS and MERS. What makes this virus particularly difficult to even try to find a vaccine for is that it constantly, from the information I have, it constantly mutates. I feel the young lady say that. It mutates. And from that perspective, it's similar to the HIV virus. Because that virus did the same thing. It was constantly mutating, which means that it's difficult to find a vaccine until the particular bacteria
can be, a vaccine can be found to start to attack the bacteria, successfully attack the bacteria. It might even come up like with the HIV virus that we end up with a cocktail.
Right.
We end up with a cocktail of vaccines in order to fight the virus. Now here's something else I'm going to say about all of this, and I put this on a Facebook message even before the report came out about the first black person, which was a black woman in Chicago dying of the virus. What I said was that, unfortunately, a lot of we know that this virus will kill people who have more likely pre-existing conditions. Who has the worst statistics when it comes to pre-existing conditions?
Yes.
Are black people.
And black people, yes.
We have the worst statistics when it comes to high blood pressure, diabetes, kidney problems, all kinds of issues that heart congestion and those issues contribute to if you can talk about those pre-existing conditions are contributing to part, I'll say, to our high death rate. Now here's something else, guys. That also, what are those pre-existing conditions coming from? Dr. Terry Mason has said this. He's a public health, he's a urologist like many, but he has maintained for years that a lot of our, he says 99% of health problems that black people incur are the result of our lifestyle.
Yes. Yeah. Jump in there, Dr. Sunni. Jump in there. Because I know
I have too much to say that I can't say now because it's just a lot. And the nature of a virus does not coincide with what's going on.
Okay.
In medical class, when we talk about, we had a whole class on viruses, and a lot of what they're saying is just not the nature of a virus. I do understand that all this mask wearing outside and all this stuff, viruses don't live outside of the body. They're not. Bacteria does, but not viruses. It has to be attached to a human vessel because it's a non-living entity.
Come on, talk, Dr. Sunni. Tell us what it is.
Viruses do not have a life. But in my functional medicine class, when they talk about viruses, whether it's a COVID virus, an influenza virus, whatever the virus, HIV, all viruses have to be living, or has to be present in a living entity because it is a non-living entity, and it has to create a protein around it by attaching itself to a protein molecule inside of a human being, and then act like a copy machine and copy the nature of that it's attached itself to. And because most of us with underlying conditions have what they call closed cells, this virus, any virus, can use its spore, those little, when they show you the pictures and they have those little spikes coming out, that's like an antenna. It attaches itself to the cell membrane around the cell and begins to copy it. And
yes, absolutely.
And it will take your RNA and create a protein to hide it.
RNA, the RNA of that virus, like you said, it makes a copy. So now those cells are duplicating, like we learned in the first science methodology, was about cells going from 1 to 2 to 2 to 4 and 4 to 8. And so, to me, I look at it and I think, this is just an alien. Here's something that has invaded our bodies, and it has a thinking capacity. and I was also reading the reason that it's attacking men is because they have two Y chromosomes. Is that correct? The men have the Y and the women have X and Y, and because that cell structure can't stop that invasion because it's in women, it's like a double door, and once it's invaded, that second door shuts. Not that it doesn't affect one who it might affect one even more so if they're already ill, but our strength comes in if we have good immune system that can fight off the demons, then it would behoove us to, number one, really eliminate the meat source because the meat is contaminated. And somebody, I know this was a joke, but it's nothing funny, but they were saying as soon as they came out with that chicken sandwich from Popeyes, everybody started getting sick. And if you have a virus that's so bad that you would think, why is this virus in the meatpacking places? People work together all day in various jobs, but in the meatpacking places, there thousands of people are ill. And I believe that when this virus is airborne through blood, and particularly because that virus did start with a mutation from bat to snake to man. And it could have very well been a European man going over to a country that is acclimated to eating bat and snake. Like every animal, every plant, every vegetable, every herb is not for everybody. And so, one thing for sure, when I listen to all the stories, the medical doctors, the news pundits, I think at the end of it, nobody knows a damn thing. Everybody's guessing. Mm-hmm. Really. Because it's like, and at the end, the doctors always say, well, you can get antibodies, but we're not sure they're going to work. Well, you can have it today, and it might last 14 days, but then it might last longer than that. And then they'll say, well, it's not supposed to come back, but we can't guarantee you that it won't come back. So nobody knows anything. And that's pretty much why it is a plague. And so, for some reason, I was listening to the story of Galileo, and he had written a document about some concepts that he had, and they were so against what he had published. The reason that they were angry with him is because he did it during the plague. And they were like, you weren't supposed to be out and about capturing these ideas and concepts. And they were just angry with him because he made a publication during the plague when everyone was supposed to be distancing themselves. Mm-hmm. So he wound up being found guilty and put on house arrest for the rest of his life. And I say that to say, I wouldn't have known that. It just happened to come across something I was reading, and I was like, this is how this thing affected him at that time, is that it was real, and the people that survived stayed away from other people. Mm-hmm. And so this is the thing that's hard for me, because I'm a social butterfly, when I want to be, and the restriction is that I have to look at others and see what their habits are. Mm-hmm. And so many people are defiant against that it exists. And I have friends that I can't go around because they don't believe in wearing the mask, and and that's a very hurtful thing at this time. But one thing for sure is what I'm going to do. And the Bible says every man flee his own soul to his own country. So you gotta be responsible for yourself. And what I want to do is make sure that I'm practicing good health as well as all the other things, washing your hair, wearing the mask, but really getting my body to an optimal health. And that's where I'm not. So if I know that my shield can protect me, then I better do the things that I need to do to become healthier and bring my body to an optimal health. Because once you enter into the realm of a hospital or medical kind of circumstance, it's almost you're not coming back. So I got to do those things to ward myself against not having to enter through those doors. I already didn't like going to the hospital. So I know now, just walking through that stuff, you might not come back out.
Okay, ladies, who should be tested? Who should be tested, ladies?
I'm sorry, you said who what?
Who should be tested?
Well, okay, go ahead. Yeah, what I was going to say was that this is Madeline. And anybody who has at least symptoms of what this virus represents. And so far I've heard about 13 symptoms. But I would say that if you have a cough, if you contract a fever, if you anything that you're doing that is not normally happening to your body that starts to happen, you need to get tested. Mm-hmm. Now I'm gonna say something else, and I've heard some really good comments in connection with this virus. It does attack your immune system. If you have a weak, it attacks, and the only way it can attack your immune system and your respiratory system is if you have a weak
immune system.
Mm-hmm. And thus a weak respiratory system. Mm-hmm. Because that's how the virus is attacking. It is cutting off your oxygen. It is practically destroying your lungs. Now, I'm going to say this about myself. I'm 76 years old. I'm in excellent health. The only meat that I eat fish, and I eat organic turkey or chicken occasionally, but very seldom chicken. Usually it's turkey. I've been eating like that since the 1980s. I have no health issues whatsoever. I take no medication. And I think you said the right thing when you said this, because when I purchased food for my mother, I suggested her to buy the best quality of meat that she can. And I am referring to these meat factories that are harboring the virus. And so I do recommend to her, when you buy your meat, seek out the best that you can, because that matters more than anything as well. Because I never criticize a person for what they eat and what they do, but I would recommend that you get the best of what you can get when you get it. And that matters as well. So, you've got so many of us, and I don't eat out of fast food restaurants, but we got so many people buying masks to do.
Okay. Okay.
that the chain is just crazy.
Dr.
And
Sunni.
the other thing that about
You
that is
call
you're
back?
correct. We don't eat a lot of us do not eat enough vegetables. We don't eat enough green vegetables, so we don't. So our digestive system, our elimination process is very poor. I don't have that kind of problem because I eat green vegetables, I eat salads every day, and that's another thing that's important. And these fast food places, if you ask me what a typical McDonald's is, I can't even tell you because I don't go to fast food places. I probably go maybe once a year to a fast food. Okay, I don't eat fried foods. I don't eat any of that stuff. Yeah. You're Madeline. I would like to say that, as a young woman, I'm in my 60s, and as a young woman, just being around my grandmother, she would say to me the things that were so important. And she would always let me know that a good bowel movement was one of the most important things that happened in her life every day. And so when you do have that waste in your body, those viruses love that kind of a breeding ground. And so that's the key. And you got a lot of people that are constipated, you got your children constipated, and then they go and buy junk food. That's right. When people thought that there wouldn't be food and they ran to the store, my daughter, she wrote me and said, what's wrong with this picture? She said, there's not a shortage. She's a vegetarian. She said, it's not a shortage. She said, because I have all the greens and vegetables that I need. She said, but the potato chip section is empty. So the potato chips and the cookies and all of that is gone. And so now you got a lot of people quarantined and sick because that kind of stuff gets you sick. Absolutely. You absolutely. And it's like not a rocket science idea, but it does need to be just a dialogue that really needs to be pushed because you've got too many children that are carriers and they're going to make the older people sick. Because sometimes it might not even come out in their body. And as I went out today and as I observed, little children wear the mask, they're, 9, 10, and 11. And I wanted to say something so bad, and I had to zip my lips because, I'm like, I don't want to start nothing. But the little kids just pulling the mask and touching the stuff in the store and putting their hands in their face. And I was like, Lord, just watch over us because nobody's following any rules. And then you question the rules, because I have two elder practitioners who own a herb business, and they're like, that it's a bunch of hunky turkeys. And they're in their 80s and 90s, and then, so then you admire someone like that almost, because I don't like to live in fear. And even I admire those that, like, I don't give a damn, I know what I'm talking about, and I believe that this is a hoax and blah, blah, blah. The only way you can get it is have a weak immune system. And so the sun is supposed to kill the virus. There are other things that you can do. So I'm just saying, sisters, that I'm just in the mode of doing this, that, and the other to put a shield around myself and pray to God that, like the death angel came during Moses' time and just, keep going over my doorstep. That's what I can pray for.
Yeah.
I'm going to just share with you one other thing that I do. Now, I have a membership at Planet Fitness, so I go there for strength training. since the gyms have been closed, I've been doing, and I also do high-end aerobics. Now I can do high-end aerobics in my apartment, and that's what I've been. And I've also been doing those types of exercises because good health is about a lifestyle. And that's what we understand. It is a lifestyle. You have to do a combination of healthy eating and exercising. The two must go hand in glove. And if you and that's in order to keep the immune system strong, to keep all our systems working in sync and keeping us energetic, and able to fight these viruses that are floating around in the air and so forth. I'll never catch a cold, the flu, or any of that stuff. Really. Yeah. So what I'm telling you all is based on my testimony of how I've lived my life over the last 40 years, almost 40 years at this point. And it's not rocket science. And what the young lady was saying about, we were talking about here about, these people who went to the store. She went to the store in the area where the chips were. Those shelves were almost empty. That tells you, that's wrong. We are doing the wrong things in terms of what we put into our bodies, which is why we typically get sick. And we have all these horrible pre-existing conditions. Now, of course, the other thing, as Wanda knows, we have talked about, over in this neighborhood, I live on the border of Auburn Gresham. Uh-huh. There is no grocery store in this area now. There was a Safe Lot, and the one that was here was an insufficient store in terms of the vegetables and all that. Fortunately, I drive, so I can drive down to Jewel Food Store, Roosevelt and Wabash, or Whole Foods. I can go to those places because I drive. I'm telling you, for people who live in this area who don't have a decent grocery store to go to. So where are they going? They're going to the little raggedy Arab convenience store that's in this area. Mm-hmm. I see them going in and out of the liquor store. And I said, when in the hell that became an essential business, I can't figure that one out for nothing. Mm. Yeah. I thought going in and out of that. What are you buying in a damn liquor store? And don't get me wrong, I drink my Moscato and I drink my Grand Marnier. Sometimes I'll have. Sometimes I might come home and I'll have a cocktail. I might have one of each or whatever, But I'm not going to no doggone liquor store every day or so in and out of the liquor store. Even these service stations. I went to the service station one time in this area. And what did I see on the shelf? Chips, and more chips. And I asked when I went up to the register, I said, why do you have all this stuff in this store? Well, that's what the people in the community want. Mm. Yeah. Wow. I said, so you are contributing to the sickness of people in this area. Keep that in mind.
And what's usually sad about that is that they were selling that stuff to the kids before they went to school. And so the teachers, they don't have any control because I was trying to get a moratorium on stores selling any kind of junk food before school starts. And that just fell on deaf ears. But we're in a vicious circle, and it's got to be like a paradigm shift that would happen that, and I think a lot of people are really changing right now and looking for alternatives and having second thoughts about a lot of things. So, all is not lost. It's just the information has to be put out there where they get it in such a simplistic way that it's like a light bulb idea that went off in their head. And so these kinds of conversations and, bringing in younger people so they can hear the wisdom that are shared
they get it. But because I talk to my grandchildren and got a grandson who's 20 years old, and when I talk to him, and I'm like, hey, did you hear about that party? Are you going to that party? I was about 50 people gonna be there. He was like, Ema, he talked to Ema. He was like, Ema, I'm not doing anything like that. And I was like, I'm just testing you. And so you got, when you see that they make the decision, then they're paying attention. Mm-hmm. And so I got another granddaughter. She told me she was so bored that she went out in the backyard and picked some dandelions. And so, and she's used to going out on the weekend.
Right.
So she's playing it tight. She's working from home now, and she's not taking chances. And so me being right there with her, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, we can't bring any packages in the house without washing them and bleaching them and doing whatever it takes to know that it's a possibility that this stuff could be on something that you bring into the house. So it's like there's tedious moments now with this thing, and I try to really keep a good spirit, but I found myself one day really feeling sort of depressed about it, and my granddaughter looked at me and she was like, "Hey, where are you? What's going on?" And I was like, "This stuff is like really got to me today," and so I have to acknowledge that everything is not going to be roses and smell goods and all of that. That you do have to allow yourself to feel what you feel, mm-hmm. and but not think to any kind of down spiral depression. And I've tried to help some others, not spiral into a depression, because it can happen.
Yeah.
And when you see it happening, and I've seen it happen with my daughter, and I've had to be her cheerleader and say, she's young and it's hard. Mm-hmm. And so at least you have a conscience about it, because you've got so many young people out here just don't care.
Right.
And so we have to help when we can, and observe how to promote well-being.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's really the key. Is take your multivitamin every day and exercise, like Madeline saying, and do some stretches and go and get some sun.
Yes.
And this is May now, so we should be having more sun to be in, and let the thing take its course.
Hey, and so in closing, I'd like each of you just to give our listeners a 1-minute summary of what you think they should be doing in terms of being individuals, because they're about to open the city back up. They're about to open the state back up. They're about to open the country back up. So I don't know if that is too quick and it will trigger reoccurrence of this virus or whatever it is, or if it's okay because people are going to pay attention and abide by whatever rules they've been asked to abide by, and try to, if not protect themselves, protect others from them. What say you? Can we start with you, Levette?
I will not do anything any different based upon the city opening up or closing up.
Okay.
I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing, wear my mask, wash my hands. I'm still not going out and about and socializing. I've got some activities that I do need to prepare for, and so I think as the weather gets a lot hotter, then I'll probably go out a little more. But I would just recommend that people make sure that they have optimal health as they're going through this pandemic. Plenty of water, uh, natural kind of foods as much as they can, fruits and this is the time to learn how to cook from scratch, get some recipes, and a lot of soups. You can make soups and drink on them, and then make sure that there's herbs and the healing herbs and that you can make part of your daily regime, and know that optimal health can be the best thing to ward off any kind of attack from the outside. So cleanliness on the outside as well as the inside with uh, firm spiritual base that you stay prayerful, and that's my remedy.
All right. And Madeline, would you give us your 1 minute summary or of what you think people should try to retain from what we were talking about this evening in regard to how you think they should, you know, proceed once the city
Yeah,
and the state opens, and you go back to work or go back to doing whatever you were doing in terms of taking care of yourself and providing a living for yourself. Now, I mean, how does that look?
Yeah. Well, and again, thanks for inviting me on into this conversation.
Hmm.
I really appreciate it, Wanda.
Sure.
The things that I'm doing uh, are not what I've done is I've constricted, and I'm going to continue doing that. Uh, I've reduced my movement about. I'm not engaging in social events. Um, and I trust that there won't be any social events because most people, if someone happens to put one together, we're going to have a crowd issue, and that's a problem with a violation of the social distancing. What I do now is I might have 4 or 5 tasks to perform away from my apartment, and what I'll do is I'll bundle them together, and I'll make try to make all the stops that I need to make it for that one day.
Uh-huh.
It might be 3, 4, 5 stops. I make them all that day. And now the other thing that I do is I wear a mask when I go out, and it depends on if somebody's in my space. That's when I put the mask on my to cover my nose and mouth.
Okay.
If nobody's in my space, then I just keep the mask I wear. You have it on my around my face. But I know that I'm okay as long as nobody's in my space.
Right.
The other thing is I've been asked about because people when they look at me and wonder, me, people will ask me what is it that I do that causes my skin to look as good as it looks and that causes me to be as healthy as I am.
Uh-huh.
And by the way, I'm not overweight. I weigh 113 pounds right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And so I've been asked about giving people meal ideas, and I just give people ideas about healthy ways of creating a healthy lifestyle. So I'm starting to put that kind of information together for some individuals. We could actually host a meeting of some sort. 5 people, 10 people.
Yeah.
People their social distancing at work. Do that and give this wonderful information that we're sharing on this line to other people. Because now, like Levette was saying, there are people now who
if anything, one of the blessings that can come out of this is that now we have more our people, black people, thinking about healthier ways of living.
That's right.
Getting away from the fast food
That's
and
right.
the junk stuff.
That's right.
Tips, and more tips. And that includes these children.
That's right.
Because what you were saying about the kids going to school in the morning, that because I was Southern, I saw kids showing up in school with all those chips. And that stuff does make you hyperactive.
Yeah.
That's where that ADHD crap comes from.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're not eating a healthy breakfast, of course you're going to go to school flying off the wall and all that kind of mess. So that's what I want to be. I want to be able to make that kind of contribution.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But
Yes.
a lot of people, they just do when you know something, you do best.
Hey, you should. You should. Well, in closing, I'd like to say that CNN says their updated report says social distancing restrictions ease globally as the coronavirus spreads. Isn't that something? As the coronavirus spreads, the social distancing eases. They said the novel coronavirus has infected roughly 3.3 million people around the world and killed more than 241,000, according to the Johns Hopkins University. Plans to reopen. More countries are announcing plans to loosen restrictions, including India and Malaysia, while Australia will consider easing its lockdown soon as well. In the United States, more than 1.1 million cases have been recorded, with at least 65,000 deaths in the United States alone. Ladies and gentlemen, take this serious. This is not a joke. It doesn't matter how it started, where it came from. What matters is, what do you do today to save your life, your family's life? Stay away from others. Keep the 6 feet distance. Wear your face mask. Put your gloves on. Be safe. Thank you for listening. This has been the Chicago Communicator News Media podcast, and I'm so grateful for Levette and for Madeline and Dr. Sunni, who had to leave us. And I'm going to be calling on you ladies to come back and join us again. And maybe we'll do this broadcast 3 or 4 times a week, because since we're stuck in, we need to make sure that we share our thoughts and the information as it comes to us with others that may not be as fortunate to be able to get on the internet and listen. Maybe they have to tune in through the phone. So I'm going to make sure that I send a conference number that works to everybody, and we'll call that number, and then I'll plug that number into the recorder, and then we'll all be on the same line. Calls won't be dropping, and I just want people to be able to listen and interact without concern about whether the system drops or not. And like Dr. Sunni said, we don't have any control over the internet or the cell phone towers. And at any time they want, those that be in control, they can cut off our communication. Be mindful of that. Until the next time, we link people around the world. Have a great night, ladies. And we'll talk.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you, Madeline. Yes, nice to meet you. Okay. Look forward to seeing you here in the again soon.
All right. Thank you.